They told you life was a journey with steps, milestones, rewards. But what if it's not? What if the path you've been following was never yours to begin with? What if it was a trap to keep you chasing things that don't matter? Machiavelli wouldn't call that life. He'd call it control. You're not living, you're executing a plan someone else drew. School, job, marriage, status, peace later, always later. And yet, later never comes. All that running and you're still empty. Quietly asking, is this it? Real power doesn't live in a checklist. It lives in awareness, the kind of awareness that makes you pause and question everything. That discomfort you feel right now? That's not weakness. That's your mind trying to wake up. Machiavelli wouldn't tell you to chase purpose. He'd tell you to reclaim power. Not the kind that shouts, the kind that sees clearly. The kind that doesn't follow the herd off a cliff just because it's tradition. If you're always trying to get somewhere, you'll never really arrive. You'll exist like a ghost, productive, polite, but hollow. The world rewards those who conform, but it only fears those who think. So think hard. Why are you still doing what doesn't feel right? Why are you still proving yourself to people who stopped watching? There's no honor in sleepwalking through life. Wake up or stay silent forever. Before we start, write awake or just heard in the comments. That's it. One word. You'll understand why by the end, and maybe someone else will see it and snap out too. If any line here unsettled you, that's your sign. You're not broken. You're just not numb like they wanted. And that means you're ready.
The myth of the path. Why the idea of arrival destroys your power. They told you life had a destination, that if you followed the right steps, school, career, marriage, retirement, you'd eventually arrive. But where exactly? No one could say. The truth is, that map was never meant to take you somewhere. It was meant to keep you moving and too distracted to notice. Machiavelli would call that a brilliant form of control. When people believe in a finish line, they tolerate anything. Long hours, hollow routines, quiet misery, because they think it's temporary. But what if it's not? What if this is it, and you're wasting it chasing illusions? The promise of one day is how systems keep you loyal. Loyal to schedules, loyal to jobs, loyal to roles you never questioned. You call it ambition, but it's actually obedience painted gold. And the longer you run, the more invisible the cage becomes. Think about how much of your energy goes into the future, into what hasn't happened, into what might. That energy could be power, real power, but instead it's anxiety. It's a trade. You give up presence in exchange for the hope that someday will pay off. Have you ever reached a goal and felt nothing? The title didn't heal you. The relationship didn't fill the gap. The money came, but the restlessness stayed. That wasn't failure. That was the moment you saw the lie and blinked. Most people look away, don't. You weren't made to walk a straight line. You were made to move with intelligence, to adapt. A lion doesn't follow a route. He watches, waits, and strikes with precision. The same goes for you. Power isn't in progress. It's in perception. And you've been trained not to see. Try this. Pause one thing this week that you normally do automatically. a meeting, a call, a workout. Not to be lazy, but to ask, why do I keep doing this? If your answer is fear or guilt or because I'm supposed to, you just found the leash. Now let's talk about what happens when you stop running and the world doesn't fall apart.
The mask that owns you. How ego becomes your quiet jail. You built an identity to survive, a name, a role, a reputation. At first, it was armor, useful, necessary. But one day, the mask stopped being something you wore and became something you couldn't take off. That's the danger. Not wearing it, but forgetting it's not you. Machiavelli understood ego as a tool, not a home. When used wisely, it helps you navigate power. But when you live to protect the image instead of the truth, you lose control. You stop leading, you start performing. Not for respect, but to avoid being exposed. How many of your decisions come from fear of what people might think? That silence you kept, that joke you didn't make, that truth you swallowed, that relationship you stayed in. The ego doesn't care if you're happy. It only cares if you're consistent, even in misery. Every title you carry adds weight. Father, boss, provider, genius, stoic. All of them demand continuity. But power doesn't live in consistency. It lives in adaptability. If you can't change without crumbling, you're not in control. The mask is. You can tell when the ego is running the show. You defend things you don't believe. You smile when you want to disappear. You nod in rooms where you should walk out. That's not leadership. That's survival disguised as success. Machiavelli wouldn't applaud it. He'd expose it. Here's a practice. The next time you feel the urge to prove yourself, don't. Don't defend. Don't over-explain. Don't correct. Let the silence speak. If you feel anxiety, good. That's the ego panicking. Let it. Every moment you stay centered, it loses ground. You don't need to kill your ego. You need to stop feeding it with lies. Respect comes from presence, not performance. Influence grows when you show people you're not afraid to be real, not polished, not perfect, just true. That kind of power can't be faked. And once you stop being ruled by your image, what else starts to fall away?
The productivity trap. When being useful makes you powerless. You've been trained to measure your worth by output, tasks completed, goals hit, deadlines met. If I'm busy, I'm valuable. But Machiavelli would have seen that as a brilliant trick, the perfect way to keep intelligent people exhausted and obedient. Productivity isn't evil. But when it becomes your identity, you become disposable, replaceable, a high-functioning servant. You're not leading your life, you're servicing a system, one that rewards your effort as long as you never stop moving. The world claps for the burned out, the sleep-deprived, the always-on. But what they call discipline is often just desperation. Desperation to matter. Desperation to escape stillness. Desperation to avoid the terrifying question, if I'm not doing something, who am I? That question is dangerous, and that's why it's powerful. You were not born to be a machine. You were born to see, to choose, to move with intent. When you act without awareness, you surrender strategy for motion. Movement without direction is not leadership. It's distraction. Try this. Cancel one task this week
that's only there to make you feel busy. Then sit in the gap it leaves. Watch what comes up. Guilt, anxiety, relief. That reaction will teach you more than any to-do list. It shows you who's really in charge, you or your habits. Power isn't found in doing more. It's found in knowing when to stop, when to say enough, when to protect your energy instead of sacrificing it for optics. Machiavelli would say, "Let others be admired for their labor. Be respected for your control." Efficiency is not the same as authority. You can run all day and go nowhere. You can perform endlessly and still feel invisible. You can serve perfectly and still have no voice. Real influence begins when you break the cycle and reclaim your time. And what happens when the engine stops, but you keep existing?
The hollow center, how emptiness quietly erodes your strength. Not all suffering screams, some just lingers quietly like a hum beneath your daily routine. You wake up, you eat, you check boxes, but something inside feels hollow, not broken, just disconnected, like you're watching your life, not living it. That feeling isn't failure. It's a message, a signal that the roles you play no longer feed your soul. Machiavelli would say, when the body keeps moving but the mind has left, you're no longer a leader, you're a ghost. And ghosts don't command respect. You can hide the void behind routines, behind work, behind screens, behind smiles, but it waits. It shows up when you sit still, when the noise fades, when the distractions run out. And in that silence, it asks, whose life is this really? You weren't meant to feel numb. You were meant to feel power. But you traded presence for performance, and no matter how shiny your life looks from the outside, if you're not inside it, it doesn't matter. The emptiness grows quietly, elegantly, until one day it becomes normal. Want to test it? Spend 1 hour alone, no phone, no music, no goal, just space. If it feels unbearable, that's your indicator, not of weakness, but of truth, of how far you've drifted from yourself and how urgent it is to come back. Real strength is not filling every moment. It's being able to sit in the empty ones without crumbling. Most people run from that space. Leaders walk into it. They let the silence speak. They let the discomfort carve clarity. That's how influence is built, from the inside out. You don't have to explain the void to anyone, but you do have to stop ignoring it. It's not going away. It's a signal, a flare from the parts of you still alive, waiting to be reclaimed. Don't numb it. Listen to it. Let it tell you where the power leaked out. And what happens when you finally stop filling the void and face it?
The illusion of control. Why needing to be right makes you weak. You've been taught that control is strength. Plans, rules, structure, everything in order. But Machiavelli would disagree. True control doesn't come from rigidity. It comes from the ability to move through chaos without losing yourself. That's power. Not the grip, the grace. People obsessed with control are often the most afraid.
They mask fear with calendars, with decisions made 5 years ahead. But the world doesn't obey your schedule. It bends, breaks, and reassembles. And when you can't, you shatter with it. Being right feels good, but it costs more than it gives. It closes your mind. It hardens your presence. It makes every disagreement a threat instead of a chance to learn. The one who always needs to win the argument usually has already lost the room. You weren't meant to predict life. You were meant to navigate it, like a general in a storm, making real-time moves, not clinging to outdated maps. The future is not a checklist. It's a battlefield. And those who fear uncertainty will never command it. Try this. The next time something unexpected happens, pause. Don't fix it. Don't resist. Just watch. Notice how much of your stress comes not from the event, but from your need to control it. That space between stimulus and reaction, that's where your power lives. Let others panic when plans collapse. You stay centered. Let them chase certainty. You chase clarity. Machiavelli knew the man who can sit in uncertainty without flinching commands attention. Because while others flail, he sees. Control is a fantasy, and chasing it keeps you reactive, not strategic. You don't need more grip. You need more awareness. The less you depend on predictability, the more untouchable you become. That's leadership. That's influence. That's real presence. So what would shift if you stopped needing things to go your way?
The raw now. Why presence is the most feared and powerful state. We avoid the present like it's a threat. Silence, awkward. Stillness, unproductive. But Machiavelli would argue that's where the real strategy begins. Not in planning tomorrow, not in replaying yesterday, but in fully owning the moment you're in. And most people can't. Discomfort lives in the now. Regret, anxiety, truth. It all hits when you pause. So we run. We scroll, binge, schedule, reply. Anything but sit in our own presence. But here's the twist. The more you run from the now, the further you drift from power. Presence is dangerous because it reveals what you've been ignoring. It shows you what's working and what's just habit. It makes your excuses look small. It unmasks the character you've been performing and demands something more. Awareness. Want to test it? Sit still for 15 minutes. No goals, no background noise. Just breathe and observe. It will feel like withdrawal. That's how dependent you've become on distraction. But if you stay with it, even for a few minutes, you'll feel something shift. You'll feel yourself come back, your intuition, your clarity, your center. Machiavelli would call that the foundation of influence, not the ability to speak well, but the ability to remain grounded when others spin. That's what commands real respect. Presence doesn't scream. It anchors. It watches. It sees what others miss. And in a world that's always reacting, the one who remains still gains leverage. While others jump, you calculate. While others perform, you embody. That is leadership. This isn't about becoming a monk. It's about mastering your space before trying to master the world. If you can't control your attention, someone else will. And once they do, they don't need to take your money or your time. They already have your power. So ask yourself, when was the last time you were truly, fully here?
The improvement obsession, when becoming better becomes a trap. Self-help looks noble on the surface. Growth, goals, evolution. But Machiavelli would raise an eyebrow. He'd see the addiction beneath it, the constant belief that who you are right now isn't enough, that you need to do more, fix more, achieve more, just to deserve peace. You've been sold the idea that improvement is endless. Another book, another course, another morning routine. But here's the catch. If you never stop, you never arrive. You just keep chasing a better version of yourself while the real you waits in the dark. Improvement becomes a mask, a more acceptable one, but a mask still. You post progress, track habits, count wins, but do you feel any closer to yourself? Or are you just performing evolution to feel worthy in a world that profits off your insecurity? You don't need to stop growing. You need to stop growing for the wrong reasons. Machiavelli would ask, who benefits from your obsession with becoming better? If the answer isn't you, pause, because development without direction is just another form of control. Try this. Take a week off from self-optimization. No learning, no tracking, just observe yourself as you are. What remains? What rises? What hurts? That space is where real influence is forged, not in doing more, but in being more aware. The most dangerous kind of slavery is the one dressed as progress. When you're chasing a version of yourself that doesn't exist, you become easy to manipulate, easy to sell to, easy to distract. But a man who respects who he is today is hard to move. You don't owe the world a polished version of yourself. You owe yourself presence, clarity, integrity. Let growth be a choice, not a performance. Let it serve you, not control you. That's how you lead from within instead of following a never-ending path outward. And what if the next level you're looking for is the one where you stop climbing?
The power of letting go when releasing control becomes the ultimate strategy. We're told that leaders always have a plan, always know the next move, always stay ahead. But Machiavelli knew better. Real strategy isn't about rigid control. It's about knowing when to let go, when to drop the sword, when to stop forcing what no longer fits. Letting go isn't quitting, it's intelligence. It's knowing that not every path deserves your effort, that sometimes the most strategic move is stepping away, not out of fear, but out of clarity. But clarity only comes when you stop gripping what's already dead. Most people stay in situations long past their expiration date, careers, beliefs, relationships, because the plan said so. But plans change, and those who refuse to adapt, they don't evolve, they erode. Slowly, quietly, and always with a smile. Try this. Look at something you're holding on to just because you should. Then ask yourself, if I met this today, would I choose it? If the answer is no, your strategy is outdated. Machiavelli wouldn't hesitate. He'd pivot without apology, without delay. Releasing isn't passive, it's active. It says, I choose my peace over your expectation. That decision demands power. It demands authority over your own narrative, and few have the spine to make it. But those who do, they walk lighter and rule deeper. Control feels powerful until it becomes a burden. Plans feel safe until they start costing you your spirit. You were meant to lead, not cling, to command, not beg. And sometimes leadership looks like surrendering what no longer serves your strength. Let go of what drags, what drains, what dulls your edge. You don't need more tools, you need less noise. When the unnecessary falls away, what remains is presence, precision, and influence so sharp it doesn't need to be loud. So the question becomes, what would happen if you stopped holding on and let life show you what wants to stay?
The myth of arrival. Why there's no final victory, only mastery of movement. They told you to keep going, push harder. One day you'd arrive at success, at happiness, at peace. But Machiavelli would dismantle that illusion with a smirk. There is no finish line, only transitions, only new terrains that demand new strategies and stronger awareness. Believing in arrival weakens your edge. You relax too soon. You assume you're safe. But life, power, and influence are fluid. The moment you think you've made it, you stopped adapting, and the world doesn't wait. It reshuffles the game without asking. Victory is temporary. Authority is earned daily. And respect? That's not a prize. That's a result of consistent presence, sharp discernment, and emotional control. Arrival is a lie that makes you slow. Mastery, on the other hand, is knowing how to keep moving with precision. Imagine a man who stops learning because he landed a promotion, or a woman who lets her standards slide because she found the one. That comfort zone, that's where the fall begins. Machiavelli would say, never rest where power can still be taken. So don't ask, when will I get there? Ask, how well am I dancing with where I am now? Mastery is fluid. It's not a trophy. It's rhythm. It's showing up with awareness whether you're rising or rebuilding. That mindset is what makes leaders unshakable. Your life isn't a linear path to a golden gate. It's a spiral of trials, recalibrations, and awakenings. And every phase, even the ones that look like setbacks, refines your strategy, refines your presence, refines your dominion over self. There's no single summit, no final applause, just movement. And if you move with depth, not just direction, with strategy, not just speed, you win in a way others can't even comprehend. That's the power of living beyond illusions. And now, what if the very act of chasing arrival has been the thing keeping you lost?
Your presence is the real power. Stop explaining. Start radiating. In a world obsessed with validation, everyone's explaining themselves.
proving, posting, over-talking. But Machiavelli would remind you, true authority doesn't explain, it emanates. It's felt before it's heard, and it demands no permission to exist. The loudest voice rarely holds the deepest power. Real influence whispers through presence, the calm in your tone, the depth in your silence, the weight behind your gaze. When your soul is anchored, you don't need to shout. People just notice. It's the man who walks into a room and says nothing, yet shifts the atmosphere. The woman whose boundaries are unspoken, but respected. This is dominance rooted in self-knowledge, in auto-dominio, and it begins when you stop begging to be understood. You don't owe explanations to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Strategy means conserving your energy. Stop leaking power trying to correct narratives that were never yours to fix. Let your results speak. Let your peace echo louder than their noise. You want to be heard? First, be still. Let your presence sharpen. Let your energy become a signal, not a sales pitch. This isn't about manipulation. It's about remembering that the most potent leaders aren't performing. They're embodying. Ask yourself, who are you when no one's watching? That version of you, raw, quiet, real, that's where your authority lives. Train it, refine it, feed it with solitude, with purpose, with discipline. And soon, your mere presence will start doing the talking. The less you explain, the more powerful you feel. The more you observe, the more you understand. This is the paradox of power. The quieter you get, the more others lean in. That's when you stop chasing influence and start becoming it. But if your presence has that much power, what's the next move you'll make in complete silence? Now that you've seen how illusions of control, arrival, and noise can sabotage your strength, what will you do with this knowledge? Knowing isn't power. Applied knowledge is. And the man who watches in silence, yet acts with strategy, builds a legacy while others chase applause. Ask yourself, which of these truths hit you hardest? Was it the myth of needing to be understood, the trap of control, or maybe the silent authority you've been ignoring in yourself? Comment below with just one word that captures your current state. No need to overthink it. Don't let this be just another video you watch and forget. Let it be a trigger, a line in the sand. One idea here, if lived fully, can shift your presence forever. But only if you stop consuming and start embodying. That's where transformation begins. So, which part are you going to apply first? And more importantly, who are you going to become once you do? Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming. There's a video on the screen and in the description that will take your mastery even deeper. Watch it next, and never explain your power again. Just walk in it.